All right, family, what's going on? Let's get that centered and make sure we're loud and clear. Hopefully, you are doing amazing. Let me know where you're tuning in from, per usual. It's so good to see you guys. Hopefully, you've had an amazing Sunday thus far and an amazing week as well as we round out July, the month of July. This year is flying by. We are in month 7 of 2025 when it seemed like yesterday we were trying to decide on this presidency, and so much has happened in a matter of 6 to 7 months. And we want to talk about it here on this channel. So welcome, everybody. If you are coming in live, let me know where you're tuning in from. Like I said, if you are rewatching, you're more than welcome to skip ahead. My name is Dr. B. I'm a holistic life and business coach and strategist for entrepreneurs and thought leaders. Former pharmacist. I've been full-time in this entrepreneurial game, have developed various different businesses over my 8-year, almost 9-year tenure. And this is just one piece of what I do. So that's why I kind of branded this channel as Dr. Brian Trays, just to keep it simple. But I do have another channel that we will be kind of showing a little bit behind the scenes, opening up a little bit more for my podcast. If you want to go back 120 episodes on Leverage Talk Podcast, the link is down below in the description. We developed that podcast in 2018. So a lot of stories, a lot of, journey that maybe you can just get to know a person. If you're nosy like I am, you just want to know, like, who is this dude? Who is this person? How did they get to this point? What have they been through? What is their story? And I think that tells a lot about how they show up in the present moment. And if I've connected with you personally, if you're inside of Leverage University, many of you know already, but a lot of you are new to me, and you may only think, oh, this is another trading dude popping out of nowhere. And that is far from the truth. I'm more like you than you may seem. So I've been through ups, downs, in betweens. All right. And that just goes to show that every day you show up, you can develop the life and the dream and the opportunities that you so desire. And if this trading piece or the stock market piece is something that you've always aspired to do, right, you can do it, right? You just have to have that consistent discipline every single day. You lose a trade, you step back in. You lose a trade, you step back in. You lose a trade, you step back in, right? If you need to step back for a little bit and reanalyze your strategy and say, hey, my mind is just not right, come back to the charts, relearn, come back to these videos, relearn, ask questions, maybe get a little bit of one-on-one support if you need it, invest into yourself, whatever it may be, because those people that give up, right, they are 3 feet away from gold. If you know Think and Grow Rich, that is a chapter in there, and a concept that I live by is many people are 3 feet away from gold, 3 feet away from where they desire to be, but yet it just gets a little bit tough and they start to give in. All right. There's my little intro rant, and hopefully inspiring for any of you, just to kind of welcome you to the channel. All right. So as always, we are going to spend about an hour 15 together. Okay. So put on your time clocks. I start this every Sunday at 4:15 PST. That's 7:15 Eastern Standard Time. So I am 2 minutes behind. So I want to make sure I respect your time and I respect my time as well. Okay. So we will end roughly around that 8:30 Eastern Standard Time time frame. All right. So make sure you get your questions down below. If you have not joined Leverage University, there's a link down there in the chat. If you need to DM my Instagram to get that 3-day trial link, you're more than welcome to. We'd love to have you inside. There's money being made. There's learning opportunities and connections to be made, not just in trading, but in entrepreneurs, career professionals, and there's been businesses being done in our Discord as well. So it's actually really cool. All right, without further ado, let's jump into it. We will go over earnings. Okay, it's earnings season. We had earnings from Tesla and Google last week. We had an awesome trade on Google on Thursday. So congrats to anyone who caught that. Friday was a little bit shaky, but Tesla made a big move up and down. We'll talk about that. This week, I want to focus on Amazon. If you see during this kind of volatility of Trump, I've really enjoyed trading personally Google and Amazon. Just because of their ATR, their average true range. It's not too volatile, but you can make good money if you know where the resistance and supports are. So I want to focus this week on Amazon once they report for the trading opportunities. For anyone that comes in here and says, hey, I want a lotto, I want free money, right? I do that in my Discords, but I do not like doing lottos, meaning just trades that you enter before the earnings come out. I do not like doing any of those personally on any tech earnings. If you do that, that's great for you. I'd say the best opportunity is to wait for after they report, and then you can trade the volatility. If you know, you know. All right. And we will talk about the end of the month. What should August look like? As you know, this Friday, we have August 1st coming in, and the end of the month is always kind of crazy. Okay. There's either profit taking, there's either bullish nature and it squeezes higher. All right, there's no signs of selling as of yet, but we are getting to that overextended point. So we just want to be careful up at these all-time highs as we keep going higher and higher and higher and higher. All right, and the final thing I'll say is if you haven't known seasonality, if you don't know seasonality, this is normal that's happening in a bullish market, okay? We had a big drop coming into March and April. We had bullish nature from May, June, July. Typically in August and going into September, October is typically more bearish, okay? It's typically more just pullback. I wouldn't say bearish. We're not in a bear market, but there is profit taking, okay? They're coming off the summer months. People are going into the holidays. They want to take some profits off the table for investment purposes, for tax purposes, for profit taking towards the end of the year, for holidays. So just know that if you are looking to buy any stocks, especially some of these very bullish tech stocks, semiconductors, you want to make sure that you are preparing to not buy at these all-time highs, but waiting for that August, September pullback, okay? So right now we're just kind of chilling, right? There's not much action other than just keep going higher, keep going higher, keep going higher, all right? Without further ado, can I get a 5 in the chat if we're ready to go? Can I get a 5 in the chat? Everyone good? Got your charts up? Got your notepad ready? Okay, I want to teach a little bit on this as well. Okay, so if anyone is wanting to learn a little bit behind the scenes, please put those questions in the chat as well. Okay, put those questions in the chat. If you have any more kind of beginner questions, hey Brian, can you show me this? You know, how to use indicators? I know that happened on our last live, stuff like that. I don't mind doing that once we run through everything. All right. Cool. Let's jump into it. We're ready to go. Marlon's been killing it. Awesome job. And yeah, there we go. All right. As always, I have the same format. Always want to give an insight as to what our Discord looks like. A lot of people have questions like, what is a Discord? You know, what is this community? Can I just stay on YouTube? Why, you know, another person trying to sell something? You can stay on this YouTube all you want. I am not like anybody else personally because I go above and beyond personally. I don't compare any of my teachings or anything because I just don't do trading, right? I'm a life coach and a business coach and consultant first. So I have a lot of teaching background to where I'm teaching a lot of the things that I'm doing. So if you're a person that wants to learn, that don't want to just be in a community of signals and just you follow what I do, but you're like, hey, how did you do that? Why did you do that? Why did you get in there? Okay. Where's your stop loss? How much should you take profit on? Like if you have those types of questions and you really want to learn, this might be a community for you to consider, especially if you're in multiple, right? If you're in this one, that one, this one, and you just want to be a part of something, it's really cool to kind of trade with people, even if you're busy, right? So even if you're busy, we have people in our community that don't jump on live trading, but they get the signals or they get the ideas that I post and they take the trades on their own once they learn the concepts. So you can do this with a job or career or you're on vacation or whatever. And yeah, we'd love to have you. All right. So there's our insight. Our university section is where the trading trainings are. So I do record trainings and also trades that we take if we do take a trade and you want to review the trade that I took. Okay, so Google trade review, puts, why I took the Palantir trade, IWM calls, power hour. So if you want to review why I took those trades and you want to learn, then there you go. All right. More things in here as well for you to, maybe start a business, entrepreneurs, all that kind of stuff. All right, let's jump into earnings. There we go. Let's jump into earnings. We have got a packed house here on earnings season now. Last week was kind of ramping up. Then we had, like we said, Google and Tesla. So we want to pay attention to Google and Tesla into this week because they could still have some volatility to trade very nicely. Contracts also have cooled off as well for options. And if for anyone trades futures or would like to learn about futures, I will cover the futures market, or if you have specific questions about that as well. Okay. Let's look at here. SoFi. I know that's going to be a hot topic there. You got United Health, UNH. Okay. Healthcare is a steal. Any healthcare, if you picked up, like I talked about last week and also in our Discord, if you picked up shares of CNC, Centene, okay? The PharmD is real, people, okay? The doctorate is real as a healthcare practitioner, okay? So healthcare, a lot of these companies I have worked with, a lot of these companies I have been in, partnership with, right? Centene is based out of St. Louis. I went to pharmacy school in St. Louis. So I have a little insight as to how that company may look. It is not insider trading. It's just, I know what that company is doing, and they are on extreme discount right now. Their CEO also spoke on Friday as well. Great earnings call. They did slightly miss, but it said it's extreme discount. Okay. So look at CNC. If you've not picked up shares, I believe personally that's a steal underneath $30. I've got a target on them back to about 40 to 45, and then 50 is that double up. Okay. So SoFi here, United Health, that is on Tuesday morning. Okay. Boeing is going to be interesting as well. There's a lot. Merck, we've been paying attention to as well. We got positions in those for leaps for some people that, have been following. If you want to see really quickly. Okay. Disconnect. I don't know why it keeps trying to connect. There we go. All right. We got shares, leaps here in the channel. There's Merck. We've been talking about Merck for a while as it's been on discount. And we've been tracking it here around this since pretty much May and the beginning of the year, just tracking Merck to see what it's been doing. CNC, all of healthcare. So healthcare is starting to pick up here, and we want to pay attention to it. So Merck, put on watch. So for those that are fairly new, if you don't know how to look at this chart, like how do you pick? It takes time to know what companies, but this is also a great time for those that are new to start researching some companies that you're like, what is that? I'm interested. And because we have the charts associated, you can check out the charts of these companies and see if they're on discount, if they're profitable, things of that nature. I have done a YouTube video on how to essentially analyze a company in full. I did that on my boot camp as well. How do you analyze if a company's profitable? How do you analyze if a company is a good company or they're going out of business, right? If they're on discount or it's a flop. Right? I have talked about that as well. So we talk about that in our Discord, and I've talked about it 101 in our boot camps. Okay. So this whole top row here on Tuesday, not really interested too much here. Maybe I'll just check out some of these on Monday just to see what they're doing. But on Tuesday afternoon, after the market closed, we got Starbucks, we got Mara. Okay. We talked about those crypto miner companies. We got Visa as well. It's going to be a big mover. On Wednesday morning, nothing really I'm interested there. I might just pay attention. And when I mean not interested, it just simply means I'm not looking to trade it necessarily. I might pay attention to it maybe for shares or whatnot. But Altria, MO, is a great dividend stock. Okay. If you're ever looking for what pays the most dividends or what's the, some dividend stocks that I can get paid back on, Altria has always been a top dividend stock there, MO. We got heavy hitters on Wednesday afternoon: Meta, Microsoft, Hood, Carvana. Okay. Lam Research is in the semiconductor sector. Qualcomm, semiconductor. ARM, semiconductor. Wednesday. So that means Thursday morning is going to be very heavy. Remember, like I said, for Google, like we traded Google after it reported, Thursday morning is going to be a heavy trading day because we're going to have all these companies that have reported, and we will look and see which company has the best setup, volatility, so on and so forth. Okay. Let's see. So Tuesday morning, I like, Thursday morning, I like, And then we've got FOMC, which I'll go to next on Wednesday. So it's going to be that in the way along with earnings. Okay. Let's see here. More healthcare coming in. Roblox had a nice pop. James in our community, one of our moderators, good friend of ours in the community, been talking about Roblox. So I know he's going to be keeping an eye on that. And then Thursday after, we got Apple, Amazon, Strategy or MSTR, Coinbase. It's just heavy hitter week. Okay. And at the end of the month, there's a lot of money that can be made, but also we got to make sure that we're trading the right things, keeping our stop losses tight, choosing the right direction, and really being on our P's and Q's this week. Okay. That means if you're not studying and you just show up and, hey, what do we got going today? Like, please just sit it out. Okay. You're more than welcome to show up if you're in a community, but I'm just saying this is a week where I'm like super focused. I'm not going to be too much in teaching mode when this type of week is going on. This is money making mode. Okay. This is essentially the Super Bowl of the stock market. When you have FOMC, you have heavy hitters for tech earnings. This is not a time to play around as far as not being prepared. Right. So if you're a sports, person, this is like showing up to the playoffs and you're like, we made it. We're going to just, see what we got. Please make sure you're studying. Please make sure you're reviewing, ask your questions, join the university, join us if you'd like to, or just watch and then study for the next earnings. Like, what does he mean by earnings, or what does he mean by volatility? Right. So, I'm going to be guiding everybody through it this week. Many of you have been through earnings season with me and also on your own. So yeah, just wanted to share that. Any thoughts on earnings thus far? Do you think SoFi will go up after earnings? I'm going to look at it on the charts in just a second. Okay, I'm going to look at it on the charts in just a second. And that's a great question, Colin. That's a great question. Colin asks, do you think it will go up? Okay. Earnings is a crapshoot. A company can beat earnings and still go down, right? So a lot of times the earnings, when people are trying to predict which way, professionals or experienced traders or people in the stock market don't necessarily worry about if it's going up or not, or down or not. If they believe in the company and they want to hold those shares, right? They're comfortable with it coming down because they get to pick more up at a discount, right? If it goes up, then cool. They're winning in the shares that they own. When you're talking about trading, Colin, and for everybody, if someone's asking that, and I'm not sure if you are, I'm just kind of speaking to the crowd here. SoFi, if someone's asking, is SoFi going to go up after earnings because they want to, put a lotto trade in, like put an option call in before earnings saying, man, they're doing great. They're doing great. They're not going to miss on earnings. They're not going to go down. That's a gamble. Right. And that's okay. We call it lottos in trading because you don't know if it's going up or down unless you got some insider news. You can look at the charts, maybe guesstimate if it's on discount. I've had a strategy as of recently to look at a lot of solid companies. If they're on discount, typically they pop on earnings. If they've already run up into earnings, they typically kind of cool off. Right. And I'll give you a perfect example here, Colin, to kind of round out that. Right. Netflix. Right. Netflix had great earnings. Right. But sometimes when a company is so overbought, right? Do you see how Netflix is just extremely bullish all the way up into their earnings, which was on the 17th of July, right? And most likely people are like, Netflix is not going to miss on earnings. Like, they're going to go up. So they beat earnings and they still went down, right? So I like to show it on the charts to show people a lot of times that if you're going to gamble or bet on earnings with options trading, right, just know that you need to trade for zero. Okay. You need to trade for zero. So with that being said, on a positive note, let's go into SoFi and look at the charts here. Do I think SoFi is going to go up after earnings? If I were to look at this chart and see, is it bullish into earnings? Yes, it is extremely bullish on a weekly chart here. If I go into a monthly chart, you can see a little bit better, but look where it is into earnings. It's in resistance into earnings. So personally, I think it might cool off and then pop. Okay. What I'm saying is if earnings wasn't there in the way of SoFi, I'd probably look at this as more of a head and shoulders cool off, and then maybe pop on earnings, right? Something like that. So just kind of an idea that I typically look at the chart and see if it's in resistance or it's in support. And that gives me some type of gauge to prepare for, to say, it's run up into earnings. Do I think it can go higher? Maybe a little bit, but hopefully it falls so you can pick it up on a dip, right? Colin, let me know if that answers your question, helps everybody else. Super Bowl time. Yes, sir. Awesome. Hopefully that helped everybody. Give me a, one in the chat if that helped a little bit. Yeah, you're so welcome. So there's a little teaching moment. So that's why the charts is where the money is, because if you know how, or if you start to learn and gather and you read the chart as it is, then the earnings kind of maybe shows its hand a little bit, right? So there's a little insight. Okay. So there's our earnings calendar there. Every day I'm going to be just preparing, right? There's no kind of, I would just say Wednesday morning, Thursday morning is when the trading opportunities or the money is going to be, primarily made. Monday, we'll see if we can get something going, just some green. I always like to start Mondays off with more of a chill trade, kind of just getting things going, getting some green in, maybe sometimes even taking Monday off and just waiting. Because sometimes what happens into earnings, like big earnings, you'll have a lot of sideways action, right? So that just comes with understanding, what happens into earnings. Sometimes you'll have profit taking, right? People don't want to hold their positions into an uncertain earnings, or it'll just chop, right? It'll just grind up and chop, and you think it's coming down and it'll just chop, and then you'll think it's going up and it'll just chop, right? So that just comes with preparation of seeing multiple different earnings year after year, quarter after quarter. Okay. All right, let's jump into the, as normal, economic calendar. We got to look at that. What's in the way of our trading this week? As you can see, if you know, you've been watching me for a while, I call it my free Monday, FREE. That just means that there's no interruptions of any data, news, other than maybe Trump speaking and talking about, new executive orders or what he's doing with the trade deals. Like, that's the only interruption that's really happening now. So we got 3 things kind of in the way this week, actually 4. Okay. We've got earnings. We've got trade deals and Trump talking, running his mouth. We got FOMC with Powell trying to do a rate decision. And then we've got the end of the month. That's a lot. Okay. So, but also on a positive note, as I said before, it's also an opportunity, if we're patient, to pick the right trade, right? And then capitalize on that opportunity, right? So I don't want to rush this week. I know a lot of you are like, Brian, you say that, but then you get in a trade like 10 minutes into the market. Well, if I see it, I see it, right? So that happened with Google. I think it was a 7-minute, 70% trade. That was absolutely amazing on last Thursday. 70% on your money in 7 minutes alignment. Okay. So we got Tuesday, consumer confidence. As you know, if you're taking notes, any 10 a.m. data is always where there's going to be some volatility. So 10 a.m. on Tuesday, we got retail, inventories, 8:30, so, but that 10 a.m. data. Then we got GDP before the market opens. We got pending home sales at 10 a.m. Wednesday, as you can see, we've got Powell speaking in the afternoon. Maybe I'll do a video on Tuesday. Again, a reminder of how to trade or watch FOMC. A lot of traders, a lot of experienced investors will typically sit this day out, right? If they can make a little bit of money on Monday, Tuesday, will typically sit Wednesday out, because Wednesday can be very volatile, very choppy, fake outs, traps, a lot of stuff going on. And then you also have this Wednesday after close, Meta, Microsoft, Hood, all these things are going to be reporting, along with an FOMC rate decision, rate cut, another pause. Are we going to have, something coming forth? We don't know. So Wednesday, depending on how the market's looking, Monday and Tuesday might be a sit out day. And then we just show up on Thursday, Friday, and finish off the end of the month. But we'll see what happens throughout the week. It's going to be very busy. I'm going to be focused, updating a lot. Make sure you tap in, ask questions, all those kind of things. Okay. Well, Thursday, we got PCE data before the market opens. So I do like that we kind of get some direction before the market opens, and then we'll have a rate decision that has already been made. And we'll also have Meta, Microsoft, Hood, Applied Materials, all those that we just showed that have been reported. So that's why I'm saying Thursday morning at the end of a month could be really nice with some volatility. I want to lighten the size on our trades as well because it's the end of the month. I want to be prepared for a fresh month of August. Okay, it's always nice to end the month off green, some nice trades, and then go into a fresh month with a new perspective. Okay. Starting off Friday, a new month, we got ISM, we got consumer sentiment at 10 a.m. heavy. And then the next following week, we got some wholesale inventories, factory orders. It's coming in heavy for the next week or two. All right, we good? Those are our two fundamental analysis data reports with earnings and also economic data. Okay. So for those newbies that are coming in, or I would just say people that are learning, I don't like to use really newbies, just people that are learning or trying to understand the entirety of the stock market, that's fundamental analysis. We analyze companies, we analyze economic data, we analyze the sentiment of the market. Okay. And an easy way for you to do that, if you are just kind of trying to keep it really, really simple, is the fear and greed index. Okay. If you look at my top, 3 tabs up here, I've got earnings, economic calendar, and then I've got fear and greed index. That's essentially how I get an idea of the sentiment of the market. Are we continuously bullish? If there's going to be some little bit of fear, a little bit of uncertainty in the market. And then anytime we're in extreme greed or greed up here on this scale, you just want to be a little bit more cautious. Okay. That just means that everyone's on a high. Everyone's thinking it's going higher. We're extremely bullish. There's no pullbacks. There's no bad news. What typically happens up here is that there's some type of black swan event that will eventually come out of nowhere. Okay. Y'all remember what happened when, the trade deal happened, and then it was back on, and then it was back off, and then the tariffs were on, and then the tariffs are off, right? But the tariffs haven't gone anywhere. Right. So that's what the market likes to do, or market makers like to do, or this administration likes to do right now, is essentially kind of put things to the side so you don't have the American citizens in this panic mode. Right. Everyone's on a high. Their portfolio's good. Their retirement's good. They're happy. Maybe this. But if you own any type of assets or stocks, you're happy. The only other thing is the job market and essentially inflation and how much things cost right now. Okay. Other than that, Trump and his administration and the market makers are like, look, we're making you money. And am I stuck here? Hold on. Every time I get on this fear and greed index, it starts acting up. Hold up. Hold up. There we go. There we go. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Let me get off of this. Every time it does this fear and greed index, it starts acting up a little bit. It gives me the spinning wheel of death. It's like, hey, get off this thing. So I got to check in with y'all, make sure y'all can still hear me. Get off. Come on. Bear with me, everybody. I appreciate your patience. Bear with me here. Give me spinning wheel of death. Do. And we're on a roll. Hold up. Tech comes in and says, hey, hold up. Give me a 1 in the chat so I can check in just a second if we're good. Give me a 1 in the chat. Give me a 2 if I'm acting up just a little bit. We're gonna go to the charts next and we'll back on track. Trying to get this off the screen. I've been on the other end, so I always like to hold space. I've been on the other end when someone's tech is going out. All I'm trying to do is exit out of this thing. I don't know what CNN be doing, but they must be listening. Every time I get on this fear and greed index. Come on. Come on, come on, come on. Won't even let me exit out of this thing. Actually pull up myself on live to see if I can hear me. Still in and out? Okay. I'm looking at the chat on there because it's acting up a little bit. Quit everything there. We're just gonna go straight to the charts. Okay. Got something going here. Quit everything. All right. I think we're back. Give me a 1 in the chat. We're back. Give me a 1 in the chat. We're back. 1 in the chat. We're back. We're back. We're back. We're back. We're back. We're back. We good? Ooh, Colin, I see your note as well. Yes, been in SoFi since $8, seen it go up in earnings, then decline afterwards, but still bought more shares in case. Yes. Yep. Think we're back. All right, perfect. We'll check in with y'all one last time, and then we'll right back onto it. We good? 1. We good? All right, I'm gonna keep rolling. I think we're good. All right, let's jump into SPY. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you. All-time highs, new all-time highs. I want to look at the RSI. Okay, last week on Sunday, I talked about, there was a question that was asked about the RSI, the relative strength index. And this is an indicator that traders, myself, and investors long-term as well also like to use along with the fear and greed index to see if it's overbought or oversold. So if we look at SPY, and I'm going to start on a monthly time frame because we're ending off the month of July. And if we can see here what I was talking about earlier, there was April, at the end of April, there was, in May, June, April, May, June, July. Okay. So if you look at these candles on a monthly time frame, there's no indication of any type of sellers that are stepping in at all or any type of profit taking that's happening. You can see that from the top of the candle where there's really no top wick on the candles at all versus right here coming into the beginning of the year in February, we started to see some top wicks, some candles that were getting exhausted like that, and some top wick candles that were selling off, which followed by this March tariff drop. Okay. But if you can see here, there's really no sign of any type of profit taking that's happening on a monthly time frame. So with that being said, right, it's very difficult to trade this because you just keep pushing higher, but our long-term portfolios are looking pretty good, right? For anyone that's been holding shares, like you said, of SoFi or anything else, you're like, hey, I'm happy, right? But now here's the time where a lot of folks are trying to decide, what do you do up here? Right? Do I profit take? Do I take a little bit off the table? And I can just tell you what I personally do, which might not align with you. If you own shares in something and you're up over 100+%, What I personally like to do is I like to take 10% off the top. Okay. It's like a tithe. It's like a little tax that I take off. It's just a good feeling that I get to take a little bit of something, okay, off the top. So it could be 10%, it could be 15% for you. It just feels really good to just kind of lock in some of those because you can recycle those when it comes back down, or you can find another stock that's at a low and reinvest into it. Okay. There's some investors or long-term investors that never sell, right? They're just like, I'm not taking any profit. I don't care. And that's your prerogative. There's not a right or wrong. I'm just saying when things are good, right? Really, really good, you should start developing what is my plan with this particular stock. There's some stocks and certain things like, for example, SPY, QQQ, IWM, in ETFs that you may never sell. You're just like, I'm just going to hold for the next 10, 20 years and just keep buying and buying and buying. But sometimes for volatility, right, you may be hearing some investors that have took profits from Tesla before it dropped on its earnings, right? There's some stocks that are just a little uncertain and they're so volatile that you're just like, I just need to take something, right? So this is not financial advice. This is not telling you to take anything off the table. It's just something to think about as we're approaching new all-time highs is what's your game plan? There's two ways. If it falls, you're comfortable. I'm picking up more, Brian. I'm not selling anything. If you're like, I don't know, and I kind of want to just lock in some, go a little bit more cash, still a little uncertain with these tariffs or what's going to happen towards the end of the year. Trump's got 3 more years in this term. I don't know. Then you can decide if you want to take some profits off the table, depending on how much you have in those positions. Okay. So SPY, there's the analysis there. Let's go into a weekly time frame. You can see here that this is what we call kind of a grind channel. Okay. And this is what happens when you have low volume for the summer months. Typically is you have a nice pop. Okay. And then you just start grinding up. Okay. And this is where you may see, or have heard, the New York Stock Exchange or stock traders, they're taking the summer months off, right? There may be a little bit of trading, but it's not this big volatility that you see at the beginning of the year or in April, March. It's just kind of this, grind up, grind up, grind up, grind up, grind up, grind up. When you're in this channel, I personally like to just trade lighter size if I trade, okay? More so scalping and just let the long-term kind of go, okay? Now, what I'm looking for out of this channel is I'm looking for a break higher, or ideally I'm looking for this trend to kind of break into a downtrend at some point. And where personally that would be, where we'd be a little bit more concerned on a weekly time frame, is if we kind of break back below that 625 area. And why I say that is because that is the monthly open candle right there. And this is roughly a top end candle at 625. So if we do something like this eventually, if we go higher, okay, and we try to maybe go to 650 or something crazy like that into the new month of August, and we squeeze higher, okay, eventually we're going to get that deeper pullback, okay, and maybe start to form some type of lower high like that. And that's where you'll start noticing a little bit of a cool off, okay? So that is really what I'll be looking for to see where more volatility will pick up. Other than that, it's still grinding higher. Just hold and keep going higher, okay? All right, so there's SPY. Let's jump into a daily time frame here and try to analyze it a little bit more. And let me turn off this. And if you notice here, I've got a couple of moving averages that I like to use. You may see people use a 20, a 50, and 100 and a 200 moving average here. So I'm on a daily. I personally just like to use a 200 and a 20. The 200 gives me more of a long-term, just extremely bullish move. Once it got above the 200, as you can see right there, back in May, look what it did. It just took off and rode the 20 up, okay? A 20 moving average, this light blue line, I kind of use it as like I tell people just like a wave, okay? If it's above that on a daily time frame, it's extremely bullish. But what it likes to do is it likes to come back and be attracted to it like a magnet. So if we do pull back, look exactly where it's sitting, right at that kind of 625, 626. Okay. So that is a level that we could pull back to, would be the daily 20 moving average as it starts to follow this, as it's riding the wave. You can kind of see what it did here. We got above it and it kind of pulled back towards it and held it. Next bullish push, pull back towards it, held it, next bullish push, right? So that is a good indicator that you can use to stay in your trades if you're a long-term investor, or to see maybe where sellers, or it might give out, okay? Because look what happens when it drops below the daily, I'm on a daily time frame, 20 moving average. Do you see here back in February is when I told my community in leverage, I said, hey, be prepared for some serious downside, because we had the break of the daily 20 on a daily time frame, and then we continued to hold underneath it, and then it started just, man, what's happening in the market, right? That's why the charts are so important, is because you don't panic, because you have these indicators, you have these signals to know when X, Y, and Z is going to happen. So when this daily 20 broke, what happened at that time frame? Tariffs are on, Trump's doing this, trade deals are going this way, tax on this, but the daily 20 just broke. So then you had a catalyst that carried it further. Do you see how the alignment happens between the charts and then the news, right? So that's what I'm going to be looking for, is I'm going to be looking for when that daily 20 maybe breaks, I'm going to be looking for volume to kind of pick up to the downside, right? And that's when that, maybe fear comes in or a trade deal goes wrong or whatever. But as long as we're above it, we're bullish. That good for everybody? Just to give you an idea of, what to do. Okay. So this is a long-term perspective, monthly, weekly, daily. Okay. I always analyze from the higher time frames. If we go into the hourly time frame, okay, this is when we start getting kind of our day trade levels to go. And I'm teaching in this long form way here on SPY, and I'll speed it up with some levels. So go ahead and put your specific stocks down below that you want me to go over and give you some levels on, okay? Buy levels, pullback levels, next level it's going up higher. So if I look at SPY here on an hourly time frame, if I pull this RSI up, it's also a little bit overbought. So with that being said, I'll be probably looking at these previous highs as a pullback level if I can find some confluence, okay? If I look at this 630 level, that is a level that we had a little bit of a gap. When you see this little gray area that didn't get fully filled, and it's also a psychological area, if you can see there, where it used to be a resistance, right at 631. And then buyers stepped in as well, right around this 630 area, okay? So that is a deeper pullback zone that I'll be looking for a pullback and buyers to step back in and try to hold that level, okay? Everyone see that, okay? So big push up. If we do get a pullback and go higher, that will be the zone right there, will be a pullback to retest this 630 to 631 level, okay? If we keep grinding higher, I want to look at where buyers stepped in here, okay? Do you see that level? So that is a support. So I want to draw that level, because do you see when it pulled back, it held? So when I'm teaching the charts, if you haven't listened to my intro to stock charting video, that's one of the favorites on the channel, go watch that. But once you start seeing where the bounce is, when it pulled back and there was a red candle, it didn't go any further and went higher. So that could be a pullback zone, which would be right around here to go higher, okay? So once I've got these zones set up, that is where ideally you'd want to trade off of if that happens. Now, many of you have learned as well, or you already know this, that previous resistance can become support. So that is a zone right here, which would be right around that 636 area. So now that I've got this all marked out, okay, now I've got 3 areas that and levels that SPY could pull back to depending on what the market wants to do. And we've seen it before. It could come here, go higher. It could come here, go higher, right? Or it could drop all the way down here and maybe this breaks, and then it comes all the way back down there and goes higher. Okay. So once you have these zones marked off, if you are bullish, right, you only like to trade calls, or you're looking for where do I buy the next dip? Where's the dip? This is what we mean by where the dips are in a bullish market. You start marking these levels off, marking these levels off, marking these levels off. And if it breaks and keeps breaking them, then you look at the next level. All right. Now, how do you trade the downside? Many of you know Trent came up with some weird name. Not weird name, but he said, you know, Brian's like the put whisperer. Okay. If you don't know, like I trade the downside very well. Okay. Which some people do, some people don't. Okay. And a lot of people can't conceptualize that. So if you join my community, or if you maybe watch me trade or whatever on my stories, and you're like, man, he's in another put and another put, and he keeps playing puts and puts, right? The only reason I'm doing that is because when I don't know where a resistance is, I know where the supports are. I'd rather just, trade the downside personally if I don't know where it's going, right? It's in uncharted territory. SPY has never been up here before. Okay. Versus if I know where it is, I can typically trade calls and I know where it's going to, right? So that's personally, I like to trade puts at, all-time highs. I like to scalp them back down if I don't know where the next level is, okay? Or if I have a level to go off of and I see that we're in extreme greed or we're in greed, okay? Now, a lot of you have seen me trade calls when I get a deep pullback, like Apple back to, 195, 200, or when Apple pulled back to 201, I was like, calls. But I don't chase calls into resistance. That makes sense? Okay. So with that being said, when you have your levels down here like this on SPY more specifically, well, I know where SPY got resisted at right there. Okay. I knew where a ceiling is now. It couldn't get above that 637.50. Okay. Pop, fail, pop, fail, pop, fail, pop, fail. Okay. So if I see it pop up into there again, potentially, right, like this, then maybe we could trade it down to that level. And that's the beauty of trading. You can trade it up and you can make money also down. One of the top trades that I was taking all week was a trend break trade. Okay. That essentially means that as it's grinding higher like this, look at the trend right there. As it's grinding higher, I have a channel. And once that channel breaks, right, and a retest, I get in on the retest and take it down because the trend just broke, right? So that gives me a little bit of a signal potentially if SPY continues to stay below that 637 or that 638, which I think personally is going to try to, retest that high and try to get to 640 maybe and break into another new all-time high, right? But as it does that, I want to watch these resistances to see if it starts getting a little bit exhausted. Okay. So this whole zone up here is technically resistance, 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 break of trend, resistance, right? And there's a little bit of support that stepped in right there. So I want to mark that. So now that I've got everything marked going into the trading week, I can now have an idea of what type of trade I want to take. And really, I haven't been trading SPY too much because it's just been grinding higher or chopping or moving a dollar or two, right? But I've been watching to see if it's bullish or getting a little bit weak, and it's still extremely bullish. Okay. Channel, break of a new channel, maybe break of a new channel. All right. We good on that? There's my full extensive review on SPY. Okay, we got Palantir. Yes, I'll go over that. Trump just signed energy bill deal with EU, how to trade this, XLE calls. Yeah, I'll look at we got energy stocks that are reporting at the end of this week as well. So that definitely could be something. Cool. All right, we're good on SPY. There's a full analysis on SPY. Now QQQ, everyone's favorite tech index, NASDAQ, whatever you want to view it as. We've got tech earnings. So QQQ will be highly looked at, and you see this grind. So all I want to do is draw this channel right there on this grind, and also look at the psychological level that's above, which is 570. Okay. Anytime I'm close to a psych level, around even number, I want to mark that. That could be a key point where we either break through or we resist and we come back pretty aggressively. Okay. Now, one key thing that I do like about QQQ's chart is depending on how Meta, Microsoft, okay, report, if they can't come through because they've been extremely bullish, Meta and Microsoft, you don't want to bet against them that they're going to miss earnings, or Amazon, but they've been extremely bullish into earnings, right? So what if they just can't meet the expectations, right? It's kind of like the Patriots, okay? Patriots winning championship after championship after championship after championship, and then Brady leaves and it's like, hey, we got to rebuild. Okay, we got to come back, and like the bar is too high. Okay, we can't keep beating these numbers, right? If you keep setting the bar so high, but we're still a solid company, we're still a solid team, right? And that's kind of how I look at the market sometimes. When you were asking earlier about SoFi, is that these companies can still pull back, right? So if I'm looking at QQQ here, and if it goes higher and still grinds higher, and we break out of 570, cool. Another new all-time high. We end the month off strong. But at some point, whether it's going to be a catalyst of one of these earnings or FOMC, if we break this channel with a solid red candle and retest a lower high, there could be a deep pullback eventually for the month of August, September, October to fill maybe some of these gaps down below back to 530. Okay. And if you look at it, it's not really that big of a pullback, right? This is a normal pullback. Let's measure it here. Okay. If we pull back from just say 570, that's about a 5 to 6% pullback. That's normal, right? That is extremely normal. So I'm looking at this grind channel, and I'm really not interested in trading the channel inside of it like that until it breaks up higher, and then you can take a momentum trade, or it breaks down back below. Everybody cool with that? All right. So there's QQQ. So this week, I would draw this channel on your charts. I would look at support of 560 to 563 as your deeper support levels. So about a $10 range I would look at. There's a lot of buyers sitting right there at that 560 on QQQ. So as long as it's above 560, right, we could get a bounce right there and go higher. If it stays above this 565, okay, like that, it could just grind higher. So it's not really a pretty chart in my opinion. It's great long-term, but this channel like this and grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding, I don't really like to trade. Okay. If you trade it well, more power to you. All right. IWM. As you can see, IWM is getting right at 5. Let's go on a weekly chart. Look at where it is on a weekly chart, right into a macro resistance area at 226, 227. Macro resistance just simply means multiple touches. I typically look for about 3 to 5 touches of a level on a weekly or a daily time frame to serve as a big resistance area or a big support area. You can see 1, 2, 3, about 4, 5, 6, 7 times at 226. I need to pay attention to it. And you can see what it's doing as we go down into a daily time frame. It's grinding right up into it. So I want to pay attention to IWM, what it does at this level. Does it break trend back below and come back to 220? Or does it blast through because it is bullish, right? Big move up into this area. Does it want to break out and try to go back to all-time highs depending on the FOMC decision? Okay. Small caps, IWM, small caps need or would like rate cuts to start coming in. That's what small companies need. They need cheaper rates so they can borrow at a cheaper price point to grow their company because they don't have as much free cash flow and they're trying to, get things up and running. All right. So IWM does very well typically with FOMC or interest rate decisions, depending on what the sentiment is. So IWM, another channel, it's in resistance. I want to watch it. And 230 would probably be the top end level. So I want to kind of move that up into 230 or 229, just in case it grinds up into there. I would be comfortable shorting IWM up into 229 if it gets up there and I see something and can take a nice trade back into that channel. If you see that, right, it would look something like that. So if it grinds a little bit higher up into this area of 228, 229, I might be comfortable taking a little scalp trade back down depending on how it reacts. If I see a wick up there, but that is a macro resistance right now. And you see last time it grinded up into there and pulled all the way back to 220 from 229. All right. So IWM heavy watch as well. Let me jump into Palantir because someone put it down there in the chat. And we'll start rounding this out, like I said, at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. So we got about 15 minutes. And I want to stay on time there. So I have nothing else to say of Palantir other than just congrats. Long-term shares. If you grabbed it, we grabbed shares down here at roughly underneath $30. Okay, inside of leverage. I always say my mother, I told her to buy. She grabbed shares up at, $18, $20, stuff like that. So if you got shares in Palantir, congrats. There's nothing really else to say but to hold and wait for it to cool off, or maybe a red month or a red week. Okay. It's very difficult to trade it right now because it just keeps grinding higher. And as it keeps grinding higher, I will short the hell out of a strong stock. I don't care what it is. And y'all know that. Okay. The only other person I know that does that well, that agrees with my sentiment, is Ricky Gutierrez. Okay. So shout out to Ricky. I trade based off risk to reward. I don't care if the stock is extremely bullish. Why in the world would you short Palantir? Because it's overextended. Okay. I trade the charts. Trading is different from long-term investing. Okay. So if I talk to a long-term investor and they're like, Palantir's not going down, why would you play against it? It's because I'm trading it. Right? Why would you trade against Google? It's extremely strong. They beat earnings. I'm trading it, it's not investing. We have shares. Okay. So, Palantir, I'm not really looking personally to trade calls on. That's just me. As it just pops higher and goes higher. Now, if it pulls back like this is when I get interested in calls on a strong stock. When there's something drastic like this. Okay. Do you see Palantir as it was grinding up, up, double top, back down? Went from 155 back to 145. That's the type of pullback I look for a strong stock to pick it up and take it back higher. Okay. So it's kind of doing the same thing again. Big move up, hasn't had a deep pullback, and could pull back to this 155 area. So Palantir, there's not much liquidity through this move right here. And that just means simply when it's a straight up move, typically, if it can't get above that and doesn't go higher, there can be a straight back down move like that. Okay. Then you can take it right back up. Does that make sense for everybody? The reason I'm saying this is simply because when people get into trading or investing and they don't know the charts, or they don't even, try to learn the charts. Well, where's the best level to buy? Okay. Previous resistance turned into a new support. Okay. Or a break of a new high can take you higher. So it's in this channel. Right? That's your trading channel right now. Broke a new high, kind of got a resistance at 160, might pull back to 155, then try to take out 160 again. Okay. So the concept is just, if you missed the move on the upside, don't chase, wait for it to pull back to you and then make a new high. Okay. If it keeps grinding higher and you're comfortable trading put options or the downside, then wait for a lower high resistance or a break of trend. Okay. A little exhaustion. Okay. And then we try to catch a little bit of a scalp for 20, 30%. back on the downside. Okay. Is this help anybody? Let me take a pause real quick. Put a 2 in the chat. Is this, as I'm giving this, good luck. Yeah. Hey, you want to challenge on that, Colin? Anybody else that's in Leverage University, do just for a second, do I short the market very well or not? Like, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but my win percentage on shorting strong stocks is pretty good, right? I'm not looking, Colin, and it's not against you. I'm not looking for a challenge or anything like that. I'm just saying that I understand what type of trade I would be taking. So if I short Palantir, right, I'm looking for 20, 30%. So if I have $2,000 into a position, right, on a short on Palantir, I'm not looking for it to just absolutely tank and make 100+% on the trade. I may be looking only for 30% on the scalp back to VWAP, right? 30% on $2,000, there's your $600, right? So, right, Colin, I want to meet you, man. I want to just know my energy is always positive, always shouting people out. But when I hear that, sometimes it kind of goes into my mode of like, man, someone doesn't think they can short a strong stock, or maybe they just don't know how to, right? And that's okay, right? If you're only bullish and you only want to trade calls, or you only look at the upside, or the market goes up, 80% of the time, that's fine, right? You just have to wait for those pullbacks, buy low, sell high, right? But if someone wants to kind of strategize on having, right, I want you to be, I love it, Colin. We're having a good time, man. We're having a good time. But yeah, I'm just like a teacher at heart, right? A coach at heart. And when someone maybe kind of has a certain thought process, all I try to do is say, well, did you think about this? Or did you think about that? Right? So that goes for everybody, because it kind of opens up your mind saying, man, I can make money in any way possible, back, forth, in between. Right? So for example, this right here, if someone, this is good teach. I love this. You see this double top right here, right? On Palantir, couldn't get above 155, right? Popped up. I call it my crown reversal or a double top. Double top right there, couldn't get above. A lot of bullish nature, just for example, like don't fight the trend is a lot of, what you'll hear in the markets, or why don't short a strong stock, or don't play against the market, things like that. Right? Someone will miss the whole downside, right? And try to catch a falling knife. So just let Palantir fall, let Palantir fall, let Palantir fall. I'll pick it up whenever I see support, right? That's what you'll hear majority of the time. And I think that is a good way to teach it. So I'll typically, if someone's a newbie or a beginner, or someone is coming into the market, I will typically only say, look to the upside, because that's where their psyche is, right? But once they understand how to maybe trade puts, or the concept of the downside, there's a lot of money. There was, this is in options, a 3 to 4% pullback, depending on the option contract you have. You just missed 200, 300, 400, 500% on the trade, right? To the downside, right? So once someone conceptualizes that, then they can be like, man, I don't have to wait for it to pull back to trade calls. I can play both sides. I can trade the down and then wait for it to bottom out, maybe wait for the next day and then trade it right back up, right? I got you, Colin. Appreciate you, man. I'm in Leverage U. In my first week, 90% were puts, and all my puts were positive. There you go, Marlon. And that doesn't happen. Like, that just happens because we're at all-time highs, right? So Marlon kind of learned, a little bit on the put side, and, people just happened to come in when the market was at all-time highs. When it was, dropping in August, or not in August, when it was dropping in April, we were trading the downside, but I was getting everybody ready, saying, hey, pick up those leaps, pick up shares. We're going to find a bottom. We're going to wait for a bottom to kind of come in, and we're going to trade calls back up, right? If y'all notice, when that downside gets drastic, it gets drastic, okay? And then people start catching a falling knife and it just keeps going lower, 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 lower. And then they have to stop out, stop out, stop out, stop out. I'm like, I'm just riding the wave down. Right. All right, let's keep rolling here. I've got about 10 more minutes, 10, 15 more minutes. Let's see. Apple's still fairly weak. It's got earnings at the end of the week, so not going to be trading Apple this week until they report, just simply because the contracts are going to be too pricey. They're not bad. The IV is, still within 30%. So surprisingly, Apple, even though they have earnings this week, they might go up, might get a little bit more pricey, but Apple's got a lot to prove. I mean, it's at a discount anywhere around $200. I think Apple's a discount. If it pulls back, maybe with the market, right, something like this pulls back to 210, 208, I think that's a great place to pick it up again. But if you can see here, Apple, this is what I look for as like a break of trend. It's not big because you still got, higher highs. It looks very bullish. I'm bullish on Apple into their earnings. I think there's, they got some positive things happening. It's just very slow. And you can see this gap that needs to be filled. So my target on Apple into, August, into the new release of the new items that typically come out in September, I'm looking at 225, 230 on Apple. All right. So just know that Apple 225, 230 is my upside target on Apple. So if you've not gotten in, if you've not picked up some shares, whatever, like look at these August 15th contracts on Apple. If it pulls back, you can start looking at 225 calls. If you have a larger account, 220 calls. Some of our community members are very comfortable trading a little bit out of the money contracts. So you can even look at 230, a lot of interest on those as well. Right. So that is a short-term contract that could pop in the next couple of weeks, depending on Apple. So highly paying attention to Apple. Contracts are very, cheap right now coming into earnings. So anytime they're cheap, typically something happens and then everyone jumps in, right? So Apple, pay close attention to these August 15th contracts. If you're a person that knows how to trade further out, you're more than welcome to get, October, September contracts if you want to spend a little bit more money, if that's your trading style as well. Okay. So I'll be talking about this inside of leverage. I'll be putting in our swing trade channel coming into Monday. These September 19th contracts for calls look pretty good as well if you want to spend a little bit more money to give it a little bit of extra time. But August 15th will be that short-term time frame for maybe a day trade or a pop, or maybe it pops in the next week or so. All right. So those would be the contracts I would look at for Apple if you're looking at getting into something before the earnings reports on Friday. So pay attention to the 225, maybe even 230s if you have a smaller account, or maybe even the 220s if you want to jump there. If it falls lower, you can pick up a little bit more. It could fall on earnings. We don't know. And that's what I'm talking about, lottos or picking contracts for trading before the earnings reports. All right. Let's see here. Google. I love trading Google. It's been my bread and butter this year. So Google, I think, still needs a bigger pullback personally. You can see this sell candle that came in, profit taking from their earnings. So they popped on earnings, profit taking, a little bit of lower high. And if they continue to kind of have a little bit of resistance below 195, right? But Google will pop and go wherever Apple, Microsoft, Meta go. Okay. So I want to look at Google this week to see, since it already had earnings, if maybe this trend breaks, because we had a nice trade on Google, like I said, 70 to 100% trade on Google on Thursday. If this trend kind of breaks, I still like that, right? To maybe come a little bit lower down into 190. If it breaks 190, we do have that gap down below, down back into 185, 186. Okay. And then that would be a bottom for my bullish folks that you could pick up the dip and ride it higher. Okay. So right now I'm just going to watch the price action of Google to see what it's doing, kind of in this consolidation little triangle, what it's doing right here, and see which way it breaks. You can see some bulls stepped up on Google right around that 190 to 191. So they are defending that area pretty well right there at 190, 191. Okay. So I want to watch Google up in this area. What it does, is there more volume from these sellers that step in, or does it break higher and wants to try to retest 200? Now, again, for those that are wondering, I think Google personally, is a new all-time high player. Like, is a new all-time high player. It's about where you get in or where you trade it more specifically. But I think Google, personally, end of the year, it'll be above 206. Okay. It's been a sleeper. I've been talking about it for a while of picking Google up anywhere around 150. If you picked it up on the bigger dip, 160, 170, all right, is a 200 plus stock. All right. So we just got to find where it pulls back to, and that'll be right around that 190 is that macro resistance turned into a support. So as long as it's above 190, we're still bullish on Google. If it breaks 190, it could get a little bit more drastic to the downside on a pullback. All right. Let's see here. Let's jump into Tesla. Okay. Jump into Tesla there. Tesla, really nice move. I had some serious FOMO on Tesla on Friday. It was just too easy of money. So I know y'all don't, in leverage, y'all don't kind of think of me as, I guess trying to make you money, but I'm just going to say I apologize to myself because it was a little bit tough on if it was going to continue down further into 195. I think that's what I was a little bit concerned of, is kind of this little candle here. It was going to make a new low, but it just broke out of this high of 310 and then just kept squeezing with no real big pullback. All right. So Tesla, we'll see what happens. It did not perform well on earnings. If it does break back below 310 for some reason, right, then we'll see it back down at 300. But as long as it remains above 310, 312, we could get that nice break, retest, and it could squeeze back up into 330, depending on how some of these earnings go. We know that gap is there. Okay. So as long as Tesla's above that 312, 315 level, I'm just going to look at 310 as a support, but 312 to 315, if I go back here, all right, that is a nice buy area that you see Tesla kind of came into right there. 312 went up to 321. 312 went up to 324, held this 317, 318 right there. So that's another level that it's holding after hours. Right there, 318, recaptures 320, goes up to 330. All right. So Tesla might try to fill that gap. We'll see what happens. I only like trading Tesla towards the end of the week. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we'll see if it presents an opportunity. But there you go with Tesla. Amazon, we know it has earnings, and guess what? Is right into resistance in earnings. So Amazon, we know that Amazon's not going anywhere, but the thing is guidance. Okay, so how did their Prime Day sales? That's not going to be in this report, but how is Amazon doing, right? So does it do something like Google, right? Pops on earnings, goes higher, and then maybe some profit taking going into those September timeframe. All right. So Amazon top watch for trading this week once it reports, but it is into resistance there. I think Amazon $250 stock plus easily. It's just what does it do with its earnings is going to be very pivotal as it's in heavy resistance. Okay. NVIDIA semiconductors. Let's see here. Just grinding higher. I got nothing else to say. It's kind of like Palantir. It's just like hold your shares and wait for a trend break, and then we can, go from there. But I do like the semiconductors cooling off. Okay. And the reason I like that is because the SMH here, which is the semiconductor ETF, if we break back below 280 on this semiconductor ETF, if it goes higher, right, and maybe fills this gap back up, right, one more push of the semiconductors, I might look at shorting them in the short term for a little bit of a cool off, because NVIDIA does have a lot of good risk to reward for trading back on the downside. For those that don't know how to trade risk to reward, essentially looks like this. If I go long on NVIDIA here, I got to have a very tight stop right there. And I don't know where the next resistance is, maybe 180 psych level. Okay. So that's how the trade looks. Or it could look like that if there's too much risk involved, right? Kind of like what happened here. You chase calls up into 173, pulls all the way back down to 163. Okay. So when I see something like that, and I also see gaps below, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just wait for my trend break, right? Wait for that lower high trend break. And I want my kind of trade idea to look like this, right? They're not going to hold their positions much longer into the August trade deals, the August tariffs. They're not going to hold their positions too much longer, right? Especially if the tariffs kind of come back on. As we know, the semiconductors were a little bit more affected by some of these tariffs. So it's not meaning that it's going to tank. It just means it might scare it a little bit to come back down. So if it goes higher for NVIDIA, I'm going to be looking at 175, 180, and then seeing how it reacts into those psych levels for a potential short trade. As you can see, the RSI is a little bit overextended, and it also has earnings towards the end of August. All right. So right now, no signs, extremely bullish on a weekly time frame, but I will be looking for NVIDIA potentially to come back down, especially if FOMC does something crazy. If we fail back below that 170, 173, we start getting a little bit more drastic, kind of like what happened here. Broke that level, sellers step back in and push down lower. Okay. So a lot of the semiconductors are setting up for a nice potential, put position or short position as long as we enter at the right place. Okay. All my long-term holders, congrats. It's bullish. Okay. AMD, same thing, extremely bullish here. I've just got a trend line there. 170, I'm going to be watching on AMD. That's a psych level. And also, if you look here, if I pull that over, where is that? Right into a macro resistance level. Last time it got up into 170, it cooled off a little bit. Okay, so does it break up into it? But sellers are ready, profit takers are ready up into this 170, 171 level. Congrats to any of people that picked up AMDL shares or AMD shares. If you're an AMD holder, congrats, right? But now it's time to pay attention to this little bitty macro resistance up into 171, and then pay attention to where the supports are. So the support right now is at 160 to 161. Okay. So that's what's holding up as support on a weekly time frame. Okay. Broke through that resistance, coming back up into there, and look what happened last time it did that. Okay. So I'm just looking left. What happened last time? It came up in the air, came back, pulled back to 155, went higher, and then maybe it tries to break into a new all-time high. Okay. But AMD, very strong. We'll see how it reacts on tariffs, but key level right there, 160, very macro support. As long as it's above 160, it is extremely bullish. That is extremely bullish monthly candle coming off these lows at $80, right? All right, let's see here. AVGO, same thing. All the semiconductors. Oracle has been one I've been just kind of watching. It's a little bit more of a slower mover, but I do think it's been extremely bullish this summer. But I want to watch a lot of the semiconductors. So if I'm thinking, cool off, I'm thinking maybe semiconductors as one of those sectors that may need to cool off, kind of like what MU did here. Pushed up into this macro resistance, went from 130 all the way back to 108. Okay. And guess where it came back into? Right into a macro support area where you do not chase into resistance. Pull back there, and maybe it holds up that 105, 108 to go higher. If not, we're coming all the way back down into this gap here, back to $90. Okay. Coinbase, big pullback there. And this is a perfect example of how a chart looks when it starts to get a little bit overextended and you do not want to chase up into new highs. Profit taking comes in, and then you find the support. Let's see if Coinbase can hold up this kind of 160 level. I'll be looking at that previous high right there, 180, 183. And it's got earnings. So yeah, definitely some sellers coming in on Coinbase earnings right there, but still hadn't broken below the previous month high, which is at 380. If that fails back below 380, we could pull back into that 350 level. All right. A couple more that I like personally as we're in extreme fear. I'm be watching Hood and Uber. with this volatility. I kind of missed my Uber trade. If you're in leverage, you know, I missed that trade. I called it out and I got absolutely just, God dang it. Absolutely entered the trade right here at 93 and it went 100% down to $90, I think on Thursday, but it might give it to me again. Okay. This is looking like a little bit of a head and shoulders to me as sellers have stepped in underneath 94 bucks. Okay. Right there. And then I'm trying to get that full move back down. So if I see Uber pushing back up and going to get resisted again around 93, I'm going to be looking for some puts probably into August, maybe. Or I might be looking at just say weeklies. If we do weeklies for a day trade, I'll be looking right in the money. You can see they're fairly inexpensive. I'll be looking at the 92, 93 puts, same thing I did last week. Okay, so Uber will be high watch for a nice scalp day trade with a potential for, as I love this candle here on that 94, if I see it resisting again and wants to kind of form a head and shoulders, kind of coming back down. This is more of a day trade scalp opportunity that I love the area that it's sitting in right there. And then for buyers or to pick Uber back up, if we fall lower, will be through this gap and maybe at, this level here, 87, if it holds up there, or all the way back through the gap down to 85 will be a great pickup area for Uber again. You can see right there, nice area of buyers that stepped in right around 85, and they would probably step back in right around this 85, 86. Okay. So these top wicks that are coming in on Uber, top wick, heavy top wick, big kind of bearish engulfing for the last two candles. Nice wick there. And if it breaks a new low below 90, it's coming back down. Okay. Hood. I don't like the weekly candle. Looks like some, buyers kind of came back in there. But as we know, Hood is extremely overbought right there. So another short opportunity I'll be looking for if the market gets a little bit weak or, kind of cools off is I want to look at these super overextended stocks for a good risk to reward cool off trade. Look at that monthly, almost at 90 on a monthly on a RSI. Okay. So Hood, and I want to shout out Dreama. She's been absolutely killing Hood on the downside for puts, 45, 50, 60% trades, things like that. So look at Hood, kind of broke that trend, right? It's one of the favorite trades I like to take on an overextended stock is grinds up. Oh, break trend, retest, right? Right there. See if we can get a lower high and then take it down. Now, I'm not saying it's going to go that far, but we can take it back down to some of these supports, which would be right around 90 bucks. If it gets through that 100, it's got to get through 100 first, but that's a nice area of support if it does decide to cool off a little bit more. Okay. So I'm gonna mark that $100 level right there as my pivot point. As long as it holds 100, it's gonna, continue to try to go higher. But if we get some selling to come in, Hood could be really, really nice on the downside. Okay. SoFi. You want to look at $18 for your pullback level for any buyers to step back in, about 18, 19 bucks. Looks like 23 is a little bit of heavy resistance right now. If they break through 23, you're going to 25. And ultimately, I've got, new all-time highs trying to get to $30 on SoFi. Merck, beautiful on Merck here. This is what I'm talking about for healthcare. And then I'm going to wrap up on healthcare here. Merck, beautiful monthly candle coming off of this low. It is coming into a little bit of resistance, as you see right there, around 87 bucks. But if Merck pulls back, I think anywhere around $80 personally for Merck is a good buy opportunity. I've got a target on Merck of 100 bucks. The first target is about 90 to 95, but $100 is that target on Merck. As you can see, it kind of broke trend here, going from lower high, up, broke that trend, and now trying to do something like that. Headed back up to that 98, 97, $100 level. Okay. So Merck, really good. This is one of those that has earnings. So if it pulls back on earnings, I think it'd be even better. But this is one of those that are more so a leap option. Okay. if you do trade options, or if you maybe just want to do shares on it and you're comfortable with, taking it from 80 to maybe $100 and it takes another year, that's cool. There's what was that? 20% on the money. All right. Already starting to move for these January contracts. 7% up on the 100 calls for January. That's, 6 more months on those. If you're a person that truly does leaps, January 2027, healthcare stocks, there you go. All right. CNC. This is one I was talking about earlier. Look at this opportunity here on CNC. Okay. Beautiful support right there. You can see exactly where the buyers are stepping in, right at 25, 26 bucks, right? Stepping right in there, and target back. First target is right around 40 to 42 bucks. But in general, healthcare is not going. It's a recession proof, sector. Okay. So it might take another year. It might take 2 months. It might take 6 months. It might be at the end of the year. Healthcare steps back up and we get a rotation, but it's a beautiful candle there off of there. And that whole gap back up to about $60. And it's a fairly cheap. A lot of people are always looking for, man, can I get a cheap stock that I can actually get 100 shares in, or 50 shares, or 30 shares, or 10 shares, right? You can take CNC from 25 bucks to 40 bucks, and there's 50 to 60% on your money just with shares. Options, we've already got community members, January 15th, 2027 calls. You can see they're already up and moving. Okay. So when you talk about easy money or putting your money somewhere using options and shares, this is how a chart can help you do that. We scan for oversold stocks. As you can see, oversold now that you want to see if I trade calls or buy stuff. Yes. Oversold on a monthly, oversold on a weekly, oversold on a daily, and starting to curl up. If I look at a MACD as well, if I can get a MACD cross right there on a daily, it's about to start taking off. Okay. There's a MACD cross and also oversold on a RSI on a higher time frame, weekly, daily. And when I see that stuff, that is share buying and leap options. Contracts a year out, 6 months out, 3 months out, quarters out, easy money, set it and forget it. And people still don't want to pay attention to the stock market, or the charts are too confusing. I'm like, okay, whatever. We also got a hammer candle. So these are all confluences that we use, right? Kind of forming a little bit of a hammer there. If we can take out 30 bucks, about to start taking off. We did the same thing on Webull. Congrats to anybody that's holding Webull shares, right? Pull back to, guess what? The daily 20. If I turn that moving average on, there's the daily 20. There's the daily 200 cross. Take off right off of it at 12 bucks, right to $18. Guess where it's pulling back? Right to 15. And there's the daily 20. If it pulls back to that 14, right? I've got a target of, all the way back to 30, 40, 50 bucks. If it takes off above 20, Webull is about to be another Robinhood. Okay. Webull's about to be another Robinhood. This is exactly how Robinhood's chart looked when it was at 4 bucks, 5 bucks, 6 bucks. Okay. Inverse head and shoulders back above the daily 20. If they start performing well on their earnings, it's over. I mean, we got the easy double up. Take it from 16 bucks to $38. There's double up on your money. You got $10,000 in, you just made $10,000 on shares. Got $1,000 in, you made $1,000 on your shares without doing anything. Right? So I'm getting people excited. Like, if you've got friends, family, whoever that has questions about the market, stock market, stuff like that, and I'm literally showing level to level where things are going. DG, who picked up Dollar General at 60 bucks when we talked about it at the beginning of the year? Right? 70 bucks. Now it's pulling back a little bit, but guess where it is? Above the daily 200 cross and the daily 20 cross. These are systems that you can use for long-term investors. And I'm wrapping up here. I'm just kind of going on my like inspirational, get people excited about this, is that there's an actual system that you can use even as a long-term investor. So you don't even have to trade options or get complicated. Even if you want to like, what do I buy? That's the top question. Like, I have $5,000. Where do I put it? Oh man, oversold. Dollar General, solid company, is not going out of business. Breaks trend. There's a daily 20, gets back above the daily 20, changes trend, gets back above there. $87, load up, take it to 100. Pull back, don't chase. There's $90, $100, pick it back up at that previous resistance, $94, $95. Pick it back up there, take it up higher. If you missed the first move. This is beautiful. I got a target like back to $170, $200 on Dollar General. When we get, injection of money back into consumers and we finally get like rate cuts, things like that, and the consumer's like, hey, let's put some money back in the market. I want to start spending again, right? These consumer spending places, the Walmarts, all these are going to go back up. You start putting money back in, regular, average, middle-class people, they'll spend it at Dollar General again. And then the earnings will take off. It'll be a $200 stock again. All right. We good? I appreciate you, man. If that's sometimes I look at stuff, I'm like, I don't know who that is, but if that's a real person, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. I attract people that want to learn, right? I don't really attract a lot of trolls and stuff like that. If you don't want to learn, then it's like, cool. Maybe I just have more of a professional maturity. I don't know what it is. Maybe I don't know what it is, but I typically attract people that want to learn, that want to ask questions, that don't mind going through the process, right? And also make money in the same time. All right. Any final last questions? Like in you and growing out my position. I never had done options, but want to try covered calls. Yeah. Colin, if you got 100 shares, right? You start doing covered calls, right? We got some people in our community that do covered calls. All right. Never traded puts. Oh, Marlon said he's never traded puts before. Yeah. So now you got a new tool in your toolbox, right? You don't have to wait for the pullback, or you don't have to wait. You can make money on the downside when it's falling. All right. Yeah, I appreciate you. Yeah. God bless to you as well. So I always say peace, love, and blessings to everybody. All right. Any final last questions for anybody? I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Going once, going twice. Any beginner questions? Just looking back up, make sure. Tanvir said XLE really quick. I'll cover that. I forgot to cover just the energy sector, XLE. And if you can see my charts here, I have different watch lists. So one thing that I'll do, I'll go to my sectors watch list, and I develop these watch lists myself. Okay. This isn't like programmed or anything like that. I literally just say, hey, I want this section off so I can have better, easier access. All right. Small cap companies, semiconductors, healthcare, energy. It just keeps me organized. Okay. But if I go to my sectors list, where is it? Sectors. I'm on it. These are all the sector ETFs. Okay. So if I look at the financial sector, and also they're in order of importance and weight in the overall market. So the financial sector is heavily weighted and very, very bullish, right? So if I see XLF extremely bullish, obviously the finance sector is moving SPY higher, moving the market higher. As long as finance is very strong, right, the market is going to be extremely strong. Okay. Once finance starts cooling off, that's when you'll see SPY start cooling off. Okay. So this is how I'll check to know, or to have an idea of when the market may want to cool off, or when it may be more extremely bullish and I don't see any signs just yet. So XLF is heavily weighted, obviously in SPY. This is the financial sector. And you can see the chart is extremely bullish, coming off of what? The daily 20, extremely bullish, taking off a new high. Okay. XLK, the tech sector, right? Extremely bullish, heavily weighted. So there's no signs of any cooling off of tech or finance. Consumer discretionary, okay? Hasn't reached all-time highs, so lagging behind a little bit, but still bull flag, trying to retest the high, okay? But, maybe getting a little bit, exhausted here with a little bit of gap up. It might want to cool off. Who knows? And then we got healthcare. So if we look at healthcare, look at that chart. Do you see how every other chart, bullish, okay, if you didn't get in, just riding the wave, like don't chase these highs on finance, don't chase the tech highs, don't necessarily chase consumer discretionary, but look at healthcare, right? This is the kind of chart you want to see, right? Something that's on discount. Broke, consolidated, broke highs, pull back into a previous, and guess what? It's going to start looking like tech. It's going to start looking like finance. So when you hear people or investors say sector rotation or money is rotating in the market, typically high-level investors, or if I were running a brokerage firm and managing billions of dollars, I'd probably tell my clients, hey, let's take some off of your financial positions and also your tech positions. I know it sounds crazy, but that's what they do. Why would I take profits on NVIDIA? Why would I take profits on Microsoft? Why would I take? It's because it's time to rotate some money, right? It doesn't mean take it all out, but we're going to rotate tech money, rotate XLF money, finance money, and rotate it into healthcare, okay? Because it's on a dip, and ride healthcare from 133 to 160 plus. So if I see a sector on discount, I will typically go look for those, and what he was saying is XLE. I'll go look at those. I'm like, oh, healthcare is on discount. Let me go look at every single healthcare stock. Oh, there's UNH on discount, easy money in the next probably 2 to 3 years. Okay, CNC, like we just talked about. Oh, discount next 2 to 3 years. And there you go. You just start going through all the healthcare stocks that you can. Lilly, still strong, obviously. Right? But Lilly, even bull flag here off of this 750, probably trying to go to 1,000. Does that make sense? So that can help long-term investors too, to know semiconductors, right? Sector extremely strong, but as you can see, starting to get a little bit heavy, a little bit of red candle there on a weekly, right? And if it fails back below that daily 20, which is right at 285, if that sector fails that daily 20, what do you think is going to start cooling off? NVIDIA, AMD. And then everybody's going to be saying, what the hell is happening? Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be like, SMH failed the daily 20. You see the psychological, emotional side versus maybe the technical in having a system, right? So XLE is what I think Tanvir just asked, and I'm going to analyze it the same way. XLE is sitting right on the daily 20. So I could see it popping, right? And also it has a gap up. So yes, you would see Chevron, CVX, right? Probably going higher, right? To new all-time highs. You'll probably see Exxon, right? Looking like it's holding there right at that daily 20 and daily 200. That looks really good. And they have earnings coming up. So I could definitely see it popping back to 120. So yeah, it's holding. So you're absolutely right, Tanvir, right? So you had a system of the fundamentals, which is Trump just signed this thing, but I put the fundamentals with the technicals, right? And then it kind of meshes together saying, I like it. So once you like an idea, it's called a trade idea. Once you like the idea, then you formulate a plan on how to execute that idea. So if I like something, I'm going to pay attention to it and say, if it continues, if this Exxon, which I like the chart, previous highs turn into support, if it continues to hold 110, or even, I would like it to hold 110. If it breaks above 112, I may look at calls there, and I could look at trading it and maybe put some time on it. 112 calls. Look at these 115 calls, how much interest is on there. You see, I'm just adding up these dots. Look how much interest is on the 120. Where did I just say it was going? 120. Why is there so much interest on the 120 calls? They're 20 bucks. I'm not saying going that far, but maybe the 115s for August 15th. Lovely. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Appreciate y'all so much. That ends it. Until next time, peace, love, and blessings. Join Leverage University, 3-day trial down below. If you need the link and you can't find it and you end it, where's the link? Where's the link? You're more than welcome to just DM that Instagram right there, Dr. McElderry, and just say, hey, I want to join Leverage University. It'll be a link sent over to you. If you want to stay on the YouTube for free, that is cool too. Just make sure that you are, if we help you in any way, just shoot me a DM. Say, hey, Brian, like I was on your live. I took a trade this week. It worked or it didn't work. If you need one-on-one support, we do have one-on-one consults that I do set up Webull. I set up everything for you on a Zoom call.